Good morning, everyone. It is absolutely my pleasure to speak with you today. I want to thank President Quinn, Jeff and Stephanie in their absence for having me today and letting me be the keynote speaker for this morning's breakfast. Also want to congratulate the honorees, especially Judge McLeod, today. And again, I'm just glad to be in front of you today. Now, as he said, I'm an attorney, and I'm also a graduate from ECC, which is good and well, but what makes my story special and why am I the keynote speaker today? And in my case, it's more about the journey than me being an attorney, which is my message today. Now, the college's motto is start here, go anywhere. And that's great. And for me, that saying is even bigger than just starting at ECC and becoming an attorney. And for you to be able to appreciate what I'm saying, you kind of need to know where I actually started from before I got to ECC. Now, in short, I was born in Los Angeles, California, to a single mother, and I hated it in Los Angeles, and so my mother sent me back to Buffalo to be raised by my grandparents. Now, I went back and forth because I missed my mother, and it's funny, I did kindergarten in Buffalo, first grade in Los Angeles, second and third grade in Buffalo, fourth in LA, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth in Buffalo, and then finally high school in LA. So I was back and forth. I hated LA, it was unstable. I wanted to be in Buffalo. So everybody say, you're from LA, why are you in Buffalo? Buffalo this always just had my heart. So when I went back to LA for high school, it was during the 80s and at the height of the gangbangers, the Crips and Bloods. And I don't know if anybody in here has seen Straight Outta Compton, but it was very similar to that scenario. And I lived in a Blood neighborhood, but I went to school with Crips. So I was worn with that dynamic every day, trying to wear the right colors just to stay alive. And I had a guy put a knife to my throat on the bus and take my jacket. And so I was going through this dynamic outside my home. And then while inside my home, my brother's father developed a drug addiction. And so he was very abusive. He started abusing my mother, stealing whatever he could get his hands on. I would come home and everything was gone, the TV, the VCR. I mean, he even stole my basketball trophies. And it got so bad to the point that the drug dealers threatened to kill him and my mother if his drug debt wasn't paid. So we were able to get some money together, where they were able to get some money together and pay his debt. And I graduated from high school in LA, and I was pretty much done with LA because of those things I went through. Now, ironically, I come back to Buffalo and start hanging around the guys that I went to elementary school with in downtown area of Buffalo. And, you know, I know these guys since kindergarten when I was here, and so I'm hanging with these guys and find out they're selling drugs. And I told myself, you know, I would never sell drugs, especially because of what I went through in LA. My grandfather here in Buffalo was a pastor, so I was living in his home. So it was something that I would never do. I told myself I would never do. But I kept hanging around these guys, going out with them, and just hanging with them, and they would buy me stuff and take me places and take me out of town, and it was constantly in my ear. So slowly but surely, I started to give in. And I had my oldest son, and now I had a mouth to feed. So with this mouth to feed, that gave me a reason to try this drug game. So again, I wouldn't do the hard, I wasn't going to sell no crack cocaine or anything because of what I went through. So I said, I'm going to start off selling a little marijuana. That's no big deal. And I did that for a while. And once I got into it, naturally, I just progressed. And I lost all my money gambling, ironically. And then I had no choice. And my friends, they gave me some crack to sell. And so that's what I did for a good maybe 6 or 7 years of my life out in the streets of Buffalo. And all the while, because of my upbringing, because of what I went through, I knew I was wrong. And I would tell myself, I'm going to stop next year. I'm going to stop after I get this amount of money. I'm going to stop at this date. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to go back to school. And I kept just like justifying what I was doing and pushing that date back and pushing that date back until finally I got indicted by the federal authorities. Now, going to jail saved my life. It gave me an opportunity to start over fresh and new, to break off from what I was doing. And when I got out of jail, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew one thing: I wasn't going back. So I started working. I worked as a weed care driver, and I told myself, and I got out of jail, all I had was a high school diploma with no job skills, and trying to find a job and going around as a felon, as you may imagine, is not easy. Trying to get a job with no job skills and just a high school diploma. So I told myself, I need to go back to school. I need to get an education. And I was always smart, always honor roll. I basically kind of dumbed down myself just to hang with my friends. I mean, I was so smart in school that everyone used to copy off my paper so much that I would write the wrong answer, let them copy it, and then after they turned it in, I'd change the answer and turn it back in, and they were like, "TheArthur, how'd you get 100?" And I failed. I'm like, well, why are you asking me that? Oh, because I took some answers off your paper. And I was like, oh yeah, really? But I knew that already. But my thing was, I tried, and this is one thing when I talk to the youth when I be speaking, and I always tell them to go with your A game. Find out what you do the best and be the best at it. I was always smart, but I tried to play basketball. I thought I was going to the NBA. I tried to be a rapper. And all these things when I was naturally gifted here. But that wasn't cool in my neighborhood, being smart. And they go, oh, you always was smart and this and that, but I didn't want to be the smart kid. I wanted to be the cool kid. And so with that, I jeopardized my smartness to sell drugs and try to be in with the in crowd was something I should have never done. So anyways, and funny thing is, you talk about second chances, when I came back from LA, I went to ECC for about three or four weeks, maybe, and stopped going because I was hanging with my friends, so I just wind up dropping out. So me coming back to ECC after I got out of jail was my second chance, my second time going to ECC. Now, when I enrolled in the ECC, I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea. I just said, I got to get education. So I enrolled in ECC, liberal arts, general studies, and just took whatever classes I could. Now, I was blessed that I enrolled late, and I wind up having a professor for 2 classes. I had him for U.S. history and sociology. So I had them on Mondays and Wednesdays. I had them for U.S. history, Tuesdays and Thursdays, sociology. And his name was Professor Gene Grabner. And so I'm seeing this guy 4 times a day. So we're talking after class and we're building up this rapport. So he asked me one day, TheArthur, you're smart, you're getting A's in my class. What are you going to do when after you graduate and get your associates? Well, I was like, well, Dr. Grabner, I always wanted to be an attorney, but I don't think I can. He was, well, like, why not? And I felt, I'm comfortable enough to tell him. So I said, well, Dr. Grabner, I'm a convicted felon, and I just got out of prison 6 months ago, and I did 3 years in federal prison. And so he said, does that stop you from becoming an attorney? Point number 2. When I talk to the kids, I tell them, don't assume anything. Do the research. Don't assume that you can't do anything. If someone tells you something that don't sound quite right, just like when you go to the doctor, seek a second opinion. I assumed that I couldn't become an attorney because of my felony conviction. And he said, TheArthur, let me look into it for you. So I'm like, sure, I don't have nothing to lose. So a couple of weeks later, he comes back to me and says, TheArthur, I have good news for you and I have bad news. And I said, well, what's the good news? He said, well, the good news is that there's not an absolute bar to becoming an attorney in New York State with a felony. I said, okay, so what's the bad news? He said, well, the bad news is that you're going to have to go in front of what's called a character and fitness committee. And they're comprised of local lawyers and judges, and they have the decision whether they're going to allow you to become an attorney or not. Now, the thing is that you can't find out beforehand. So you're going to have to go through all the pre-steps and get there before you find out. So you're going to have to get your associates, get your bachelor's, get into law school, get your JD, take the New York State bar and pass it. Then you're going to have to go in front of this committee. And they can tell you no. What are you going to do? Well, I thought about it, but I didn't think too long because, first of all, I didn't think it was possible. So that in itself gave me light. And I knew worst case scenario was that, I would have at least a Juris Doctorate, and that would be good as far as, I'm counteracting my felony conviction. So what did I have to lose? I was like, no, I'm going to go for it. And he said, well, TheArthur, whatever you need, I'll help you. And I think I had Dr. Grabner for probably about every class he had, I took it. And also, me being at ECC, I was driving the van at the time, and I probably parked the van out here in this parking lot many a times to go to class. And I took classes at South Campus, North Campus, City Campus, wherever I could, whatever fit into my schedule, I took it. And I graduated here, and I went on to UB. And then Dr. Grabner wrote me a letter to help me get into UB. Undergrad, I did my first year of law school in Cleveland because I didn't get into UB Law School, and I commuted my first semester of law school from Buffalo to Cleveland like almost every day. So I probably can tell you every inch of I-90 West, going back and forth where the signs are at. And after that, I got to UB Law School as a transfer student, did well there, became the president of Black Law Student Association, graduated in 2012. I was admitted in 2013. Got a job as assistant corporation counsel for the city of Buffalo doing civil litigation for them. Now, I'm glad you guys are sitting down, because if I told you this while you were standing up, you probably wouldn't believe it. You probably would have to sit down. Part of my job as Assistant Corporation Counsel for the City of Buffalo was defending the city in all its departments. What departments does the city have? Sanitation, fire department, where am I going with this? Police department. So here I was, a convicted felon, defending the city of Buffalo and its police department. And I believe that put me in a good position to be neutral. And what I mean by that is because I didn't believe anything on its face. I've been arrested probably a good 10 times, and I've had officers plant drugs on me before. And so someone who may have not been in that position may have just believed everything that was said by the officer. And so, and at the same time, I had a duty to zealously defend the police department, which was my job. So with that gave me an insight that no one else had. And so I could go to my boss and be like, I think we need to settle this one. I don't think the officer is being truthful. Or just gave me a better perspective. Stayed there at the City of Buffalo for 3.5 years, and I resigned last year to open up my own practice, and now I'm doing mostly criminal defense law. I wrote a book, it's called Felon Attorney. It talks about ECC and school in depth, my whole journey, and everything I went through to get to this point. I've been doing a lot of speaking in high schools, colleges, street corners, parks, anywhere I can touch a young person and try to talk to them and put them on a straight path. Unlike many, I can actually tell them, I know what you're going through. I've been there, done that. This is what I'm doing now, and you can do the same. I try to give them some hope. A lot of times the youth, they need that visual. They need that one-on-one contact. They need you can tell them about something, but they need to see it. Even now, when I still run into some people from my past, and they ask me, "Are you a paralegal?" No. But didn't you? Yeah. And you? Yeah. With the president going out, and as we know, when the president goes out, he does a lot of pardons and some clemency for sentencing, and let individuals out and pardon people for like their felonies. And I always wanted to do my pardon application. I figured I had a good chance out now that I was an attorney to get pardoned. And my crime was federal, so I would have to get pardoned by the president for my felony to go away. So when the President Obama was leaving out of office, I got my application together, and I needed some letters of recommendation, and I got my application together, and I went to go see one of my mentors, Judge Ogden, and talk to her about it, and trying to get some insight or some individuals I should try to get letters of recommendation from that would help me in this process. And she said, "TheArthur, God has already pardoned you." And you went through this journey to put your story out there to help others. And I said, yeah, Judge, but I'm trying to get this pardon. So she said that we would talk later about it, and I told her I would call her. And I left out, And I was driving, and I thought about every time someone finds out I'm an attorney, the first thing they say is, "Oh, you must have got pardoned. Oh, you must have got your record sealed." And to me, I thought that if I got a pardon, that would weaken my message. So I didn't put the application in. So I still have trouble going over to Canada. But I didn't want people to say, "Oh, you're not a felon no more, that's why you're an attorney." No, I'm still a felon. I'm still a felon. And so you can't use that as an excuse. You can't. My thing is, when I talk to individuals, I don't want to hear it. It's tough. Everybody has their journey. Everybody has their issues. It's tough for everybody. If you want something, you got to go out there and fight and get it. As I said, I commuted the law school. I got turned down by UB Law School 3 times. But I didn't give up. I didn't know that the character and fitness committee was going to tell me yes. But I didn't give up. And so I don't want to hear excuses. I don't want to hear it. And they call me Tone, I can't do it. You know, I got a wife and kids, and I graduated from law school with a wife and 4 kids. Well, Tone, I can't do it. You know, I'm older. Well, I graduated from law school at the age of 43. Well, Tone, you know, I've been troubled. Well, I'm a felon too. Well, Tone, you know, I'm from this neighborhood, and well, I'm from the downtown area of Buffalo, William and Jefferson. So I don't want to hear the excuses. And that's my message. And also, here's another thing that I try to stress when I speak. I was afforded a second opportunity because people believed in my change. Because people said, we're going to give TheArthur a second chance. From Judge Ogden to Crystal Peoples-Stokes to Damone Smith to my boss at the City of Buffalo, Tim Ball. These people gave me a job and knew about my past, believed I had changed, and gave me an opportunity to change my life and right my wrong. And that's where many of you may come into play. A lot of times we're scared to write that letter of recommendation for someone. Look at this guy's background and don't give him a chance. So a lot of people at ECC it's very diverse, from people going back to school to people that's been in trouble before, like myself. And so they need to know that if I get this education, if I get this skill set, if I graduate, there's a job somewhere for me. That I'm not doing this for naught. That I'm not getting the student debt and not being able to pay it back. That I'm not ducking Sally Mae for the rest of my life. And Nailnet and whoever else you get along from. That's important. That's important. Because there is a stigma, say, oh, well, I got a job, man. I mean, I graduated with this type of degree and I can't find a job in that field. So we gotta, and I know the area is up and coming, and there's a lot of things going on, and we gotta lift as we climb. And I know you have to vet to a certain position, up to a certain point. But we got to be able to give some people some opportunities, some second chances,